Education in Turkey is governed by a national system which was established in accordance with the Ataturk reforms after the Turkish War of Independence. It is a state-supervised system designed to produce a skillful professional class for the social and economic institutes of the nation. Compulsory education lasts 12 years. Primary and secondary education is financed by the state and free of charge in public schools, between the ages of 6 and 18, and by 2001 enrollment of children in this age range was nearly 100%. Secondary or high school education is mandatory but required in order to then progress to universities. By 2011 there were 166 universities in Turkey, except for the open education faculty at Anadolu University. Entrance is regulated by a national examination, OSYS, after which high school graduates are assigned to university according to their performance. In 2002, the total expenditure on education in Turkey amounted to $13.4 billion. Including the state budget allocated through the National Ministry of Education and private and international funds. On November 22, 2010, the government initiated the Fatih project, which seeks to integrate state-of-the-art computer technology into Turkey's public education system. History. After the foundation of the Turkish Republic, the organization of the Ministry of Education gradually developed and was reorganized with the Law No. 2287 issued in 1933. The ministry changed its name several times. It fell under the Ministry of Culture. Since then it is called the Ministry of National Education. Before the Republic, education institutions were far from having a national character. Schools were organized in 3 separate channels which were vertical institutions independent of each other. The first and the most common in this organization were the district schools and madrasas based on the teaching of the Quran, the Arabian language and memorizing. The second were the reform schools and high schools supporting innovation, and the third were the colleges and minority schools with foreign language education. The Law of Integration of Education, No. 430, was issued on 3 March 1924. With this law, the 3 separate channels were combined. The first one was closed, the second was developed, and the third one was taken under the inspection and monitoring of the Ministry of Education. One of its aims was to apply secularism in the area of education. By the Law for the Education Organization No. 789 issued on the 22nd of March 1926, the Ministry of National Education was given responsibility for defining the degrees and equalities of the public and private schools already opened or to be opened by a ministry other than the Ministry of National Education. This law brought new arrangements such as, no school can be opened in Turkey without the permission and agreement of the Ministry of National Education, or curricula shall be prepared by the Ministry of National Education. The vocational technical education institutions formerly directed by local governments were put under the responsibility of the Ministry of Education. In 1923-24, there were in Turkey slightly more than 7,000 secondary school students, almost 3,000 high school students, some 2,000 technical school students, and officially 18,000 medrese students, of whom 6,000 are claimed to be actual students and the rest who registered to be excluded from military service. The population of Turkey was at that moment some 13–14 million. On 1 November 1928, Law No. 1353 introduced a new Latin-based alphabet was accepted. In 1931, the Turkish Association of History, and in 1932, the Turkish Language Association were established to protect Turkish from influences of foreign languages, improve it as science suggests, and prevent misuse of the Turkish language. Also see language reform in modern Turkish. There were 5,100 schools in 1923. This figure increased to 58,800 in 2001. There were 361,500 students in 1923. This number increased to 16 million in 2001. In 1923, 12,200 teachers were employed. This number increased to 578,800 in 2001. In 1924, there were 479 medreses. On average, each one of them had approximately 1.15 hukka. All medreses were closed down that year by the law of Tevhid-i Tedrasat. Until 1997, children in Turkey were obliged to take 5 years of education. The 1997 reforms introduced compulsory education for 8 years. New legislation introduced in March 2012 prolonged compulsory education to 12 years. Pre-primary education. Pre-primary education includes the optional education of children between 36 to 72 months who are under the age of compulsory primary education. Pre-primary education institutions. Independent nurseries are opened as nursery classes and practical classes within formal and non-formal education institutions with suitable physical capacity. Services related to pre-primary education are given by nurseries, kindergartens. Practical classes opened first and foremost by the Ministry of National Education and by day centers, nursery schools, daycare houses, childcare houses and child care institutions opened by various ministries and institutions for care or education purposes based on the provisions of 10 laws, 2 statutes and 10 regulations. In the academic year 2001-2002, 256,400 children were being educated and 14,500 teachers were employed in 10,500 pre-primary education institutions. Primary education. Primary school lasts 8 years. Primary education covers the education and teaching directed to children between 6 to 14, is compulsory for all citizens, boys or girls, and is given free of charge in public schools. Primary education institutions are schools that provide 8 years of uninterrupted education, at the end of which graduates receive a primary education diploma. The first 4 years of the primary school is sometimes referred to as first school level, but both are correct. There are 4 core subjects at first, second and third grades which are Turkish, maths, Hayat Bilgisi and foreign language. At 4th grade, Hayat Bilgisi is replaced by science and social studies. The foreign language taught at schools changes from school to school. The most common one is English, while some schools teach German, French or Spanish instead of English. Some private schools teach 2 foreign languages at the same time. Earlier the term middle school was used for the 3 years education to follow the then compulsory 5 years at first school. Now the second 4 years of primary education are sometimes referred to as first school level, but both are correct. Already primary schools may be public or private schools. Public schools are free but private schools' admission fees change from school to school. Foreign languages taught at private schools are usually at a higher level than at public schools, for most private schools prefer hiring native speakers as teachers. There are 5 core subjects at 6th and 7th grades: Turkish, maths, science, social studies and foreign language. At 8th grade, social studies is replaced by history and citizenship. In the academic year 2001-2002, 10.3 million students were being educated and 375,500 teachers were employed in 34,900 schools. Secondary education. Secondary education includes all of the general, vocational and technical education institutions that provide at least 3 years of education after primary school. The system for being accepted to a high school changes almost every year. Sometimes private schools have different exams. Sometimes there are 3 exams for 3 years. Sometimes there's only one exam, but it is calculated differently. Sometimes they only look at your school grades. Secondary education aims to give students a good level of common knowledge, and to prepare them for higher education, for a vocation, for life and for business in line with their interests, skills and abilities. In the academic year 2001-2002, 2.3 million students were being educated and 134,800 teachers were employed in 6,000 education institutions. General secondary education covers the education of children between 15 to 17 for at least 3 years after primary education. General secondary education includes high schools, foreign language teaching high schools, Anatolian high schools of science, Anatolia teacher training high schools, and Anatolia fine arts high schools. Vocational and technical secondary education involves the institutions that both raise students as manpower in business and other professional areas, prepare them for higher education and meet the objectives of general secondary education. Vocational and technical secondary education includes technical education schools for boys, technical education schools for girls, trade and tourism schools, religious education schools, multi-program high schools, special education schools, private education schools and health education schools. Secondary education is often referred as high school education, since the schools are called lyceum. In public high schools and vocational high schools, students attend 6 classes each day, which last for approximately 40 minutes each. In Anatolian high schools and private high schools, the daily program is typically longer, up to 8 classes each day, also including a lunch period. All 9th graders are taught the same classes nationwide, with minor differences in certain cases. These classes are Turkish language, Turkish literature, mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology, geometry, world history, geography, religion and ethics. Physical education, a foreign language, a second foreign language. When students enter the 10th grade, they typically choose one of 4 tracks: Turkish language, mathematics, science, social sciences, and foreign languages. In vocational high schools, no tracks are offered, while in science high schools only the science tracks are offered. Different schools may have different policies. Some, but not many, schools offer electives instead of academic tracks, giving students a wider range of options. For the 10th, 11th and 12th grade, the compulsory courses are Turkish language, Turkish literature, Republican history, and religion and ethics. In addition to that, students may be taught the following classes, depending on the track they choose or the high school they attend: mathematics, geometry, statistics, physics, biology, chemistry, geography, philosophy, psychology, sociology, economy, logic, arts and music, traffic and health, computer, physical education, first and second foreign language. The students used to be given a diploma for the academic track they had chosen, which gave them an advantage if they wanted to pursue their higher education in the corresponding fields, as the university entrance exam scores were weighted according to the student's track. As of the 2010-2011 educational year, all high school students are given the standard high school diploma. At the end of high school, following the 12th grade, students take a high school finishing examination and they are required to pass this in order to take the university entrance exam and continue their studies at a university. There are 4 score types for different academic fields, including but not limited to Turkish language, mathematics, international relations, law, education, psychology, economy, business management, and similar, science, engineering, computer science, medicine, and other science-related professions, social sciences, history, geography, and education. Foreign languages. language, linguistics and language teaching. International education. The International Baccalaureate has been available in Turkey since 1994, when the first school was authorized by the IB, and 53 schools now offer one or more of the IB programs. Vocational education. Vocational and technical secondary education involves the institutions that both raise students as manpower in business and other professional areas, prepare them for higher education, and meet the objectives of general secondary education. Vocational and technical secondary education includes technical education schools for boys, technical education schools for girls, trade and tourism schools, religious education schools, multi-program high schools, special education schools, private education schools and health education schools. In the academic year 2001-2002, 821,900 students were being educated and 66,100 teachers were employed in 3,400 vocational and technical secondary education schools. According to Article 37 of Vocational Education LHIAW No. 3308, the Ministry of National Education is organizing vocational courses in order to prepare the people who have left the formal education system and do not possess the qualifications required for employment for any vacant positions in the business sector. Based on apprenticeship training programs, the Ministry of National Education pays the insurance premiums against occupational accidents, sicknesses during the vocational period and other sicknesses of participants attending courses in relation to their occupation. These participants may take experienced apprenticeship exams after the education they have received and the work they have performed are evaluated according to the regulations for evaluating the certificates and diplomas in apprenticeship and vocational training. People who work in the 109 branches mentioned in Law No. 3308 have finished primary education and are below the age of the 14th of May received training as candidate apprentices or apprentices. Law No. 4702 gives apprenticeship training opportunity to those over 19. The period of apprentice training changes between 2 to 4 years depending on the nature of vocations. Adolescents who have not attended the formal education system or left the system at any stage may take the experienced apprenticeship exam after 1 year of adaptation training, provided they had reached the age of 16 at the date when the said profession was included in the coverage of law. Those at the age of the 18th of May directly take the experienced apprenticeship exam, if a certificate is provided to prove that he/she is working in the related profession. Those who graduate from vocational and technical secondary education institutions or from vocational and technical schools and institutions may take proficiency exam in their own professions. Graduates of technical high school or of 4-year programs in vocational and technical schools and institutions are given a certificate to start businesses with the privileges and responsibilities of a proficiency certificate. In 2001, 248,400 apprentices were being educated and 5,100 teachers were employed in 345 vocational training centers. The new system, 4+4+4. In March 2012, the Grand National Assembly passed new legislation on primary and secondary education, usually termed as 4+4+4. Children will begin their primary education in the first month of September following their 6th birthdays and will come to a close during the school year in which students turn 14 years old. The primary education stages, which includes the first 2 stages of 4 years education each, will entail 4 years of mandatory elementary education, followed by an additional mandatory 4 years of middle school education, in which students will be able to choose whether they want to study at a general education middle school or a religious vocational middle school, which are referred to as Imam Hatip schools. The new legislation includes the reopening of Imam Hatip middle schools. Primary education establishments will be set up separately as independent elementary schools and middle schools. When the Justice and Development Party come to power in 2002, only about 2% of eligible children attended clerical schools. Since then, the AKP has been determined to undo the effects of the 1997 reform. The idea is to revitalize middle schools and allow children to take a large number of elective options. In some cases, plumbing; in others, religious studies.